Welcome to Bulletproof Veteran Podcast. Thank you for your service.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Bulletproof Veteran Podcast. I am super excited this week to have on two former Navy SEALs, both retired Navy SEALs. We have Alex West and Rob Garnett. They are the biggest part of One More Wave. All right. Alex is the founder and Rob is the chief of operations. So they're really the guys behind the scenes. They're the ones doing all the work to make this organization great. And you know, as a Long Island boy, surfing, you know, we grew up in the water, whether it was boogie boards, surfing, fishing, whatever it was. And so when I saw your organization on Instagram, right away I was kind of drawn to it because surf therapy, I think, is something that a lot of people can benefit from. And I know we're going to get into that. But first off, like we always do on the show, I like to hear a little bit about yourselves. You guys are the ones that are behind the scenes doing all of it. And every organization starts with that foundation of who you guys are. So, Alex, why don't you go ahead? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Thanks, Jason. And thanks for having us on your podcast. For me, I was born in South Africa and I lived in Africa until I was about 10 years old, moved to Kansas City. And then from there, I joined the Navy right out of high school. And then I did 20 years on both the East and West Coast SEAL teams. And then the last few years before I retired, that's when One More Wave started. I was a volunteer for a surf clinic through Balboa Naval Hospital. And I just noticed that there was a need for some specified gear. And then thankfully, I was lucky enough to have talented people like Rob as friends that came on board, him and some other people like Kyle Bucket. And from there, everything kind of just started growing. And then now we are, we have chapters all over the country and serving a whole bunch of veterans. So for us, a quick little wave top, that's a little bit of my background.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you. And Rob, a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a California native, Southern California specifically. Like Alex, I joined the Navy and spent a career in the SEAL teams. Luckily enough, I got to stay in Coronado. It's terrible here. Where the weather's awful.
Awesome.
But when I finished, I did a little bit of government contracting for a bit, and I didn't really like it that much. But it's kind of the easy button for us to easily hop out and hop into different jobs. So I did that for a bit, and I was lucky enough to kind of link up with some old teammates and get back into surfing, and specifically One More Wave with Alex and with another guy, Kyle, who really helped us kind of get all this thing going. So we're so excited where it is now and how much we've grown from, just in the last 3 years. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
So Alex, when did you actually start, when did you found One More Wave? What was the year?
Yeah, it was March of 2015. And it's kind of a interesting story. I was, as I mentioned, a volunteer for the surf clinic, which essentially was taking wounded and injured veterans with their health and wellness department and getting them out in the ocean and helping them learn how to surf. And so I was volunteering for that. And I recognized that there was a specific need for equipment that was designed to the actual injuries of the veteran. For example, amputees, burn victims, spinal cord injuries, and the list goes on. And there wasn't anything truly specified to that. And I had this idea to maybe start a nonprofit. I had no idea how to do it. As I mentioned, I was active duty. And before I knew it, I was with a Marine veteran out in Del Mar. And this was in March. So a beautiful Southern California morning in March. And he was missing a leg below the knee. He had lost it in Afghanistan. And we were out surfing and he had this huge smile on his face. And I remember turning over and being like, yeah, man, it's beautiful out, thinking that's why he was smiling. But he actually looked at me and he said, hey, man, it is beautiful, by the way. However, that's not why I'm smiling. I'm smiling because every time I get on a wave, there's no more pain. I'm in the moment of surfing that wave. And every time I'm done with that wave, I realize nobody's looking at me and judging me for the guy missing a leg. And at that moment, I was like, that was the aha moment. I was like, that's it. I got to get off my fucking ass and do this. So I drove back from Del Mar, started driving down and swung by a Borders bookstore. And I walked in all determined, all fired up. And then I got to the nonprofit section and I start looking at all these incredible books from these PhDs, these professors, these, you name the who's who in the zoo for nonprofits. And I slowly started losing motivation, thinking I can't do this. I don't have the confidence to just start something. I don't know, man. But I didn't want to leave empty handed. And out of the corner of my eye, I saw this little yellow book. I was like, no way. And so I pulled it out, and it was How to Start a Nonprofit for Dummies. And I just thought, you know what? I can't leave empty handed. I got to at least go back, and so I got to kick the can down the road. And, and then I just sat down that night with a cup of coffee and a highlighter. And that was the beginning of One More Wave.
Wow. That's pretty cool. It always takes me by surprise when I hear people like yourselves, operators, people in high stress positions, tip of the spear type thing, to use that terminology. I know military probably gonna make fun of me for saying that, but say that they don't have the confidence to do something, because I think the portrayal of, say, a Navy SEAL is confidence above and beyond probably everybody around them. So it's kind of, I won't say nice to hear that, even people that do the job like you guys did for so many years, it's still a daunting task to start a business or a nonprofit or something like that. It's not an easy thing to just, hey, I'm going to jump in and I'm going to do it. I had another Navy SEAL on a while back, and he talked about all the businesses that failed before he got successful, because it's not easy. It's not an easy thing to do. So One More Wave, you guys focus a lot on the equipment, correct? So when we get into kind of the process of somebody coming to you guys, they want to get back into surfing. So they go to the website, right?
Right.
They apply. Am I correct?
Yeah. If I could, actually, we started out with just the equipment, right?
Just the equipment.
Yeah, we started out because we thought that was the need, and we thought it was just going to be for that small little clinic in San Diego. And before we knew it, as we started building these boards, and I can completely, or Rob can too, go down some deep rabbit holes on all of that, but I don't want to lose too many viewers. But I would say that, we started out that way, but what was so awesome, organically, we started recognizing a need for community, a void, if you will. And it started in San Diego, of a lot of these veterans and active duty, but mostly veterans, who just, they're like, okay, let's get together and let's do a surf. Hey, let's get together. And then before we knew it, we're like, yeah, we are actually providing community. We're providing a tribe. I don't know if I just read the book Tribe by Sebastian Junger, which I'd recommend any veteran read, but it's like everyone is part of a group. And so we started that, our chapter in San Diego. And then now we have chapters all over the country, up and down the California coast, in Oahu, North Carolina. And we're starting to build chapters in foster chapters, if you will, in many other parts of the country. But
that's great.
So we provide community is a big thing for us that we didn't recognize in the beginning was needed, but it is one of the coolest parts, and maybe one of the parts that isn't as maybe flashy on, let's say, social media.
Of course.
Because lots of times the boards, we've really broken a lot of trail on surfboard design, not just in adaptive surfboards, but in the surfboard industry. And so that gets a lot of attention. However, it's truly that veteran that, I don't know, I just want to sit on my couch and maybe down a handle of Jack Daniels, but then they get a text from another veteran that's like, hey dude, let's go surf. Surf's great. And it's like, I don't know, man. And then you just get them off that couch in the water and actually taking the benefits of surf therapy and community.
Oh, definitely. Now, did you guys have any kind of background in designing or shaping a surfboard? Because I have actually shaped a surfboard.
Cool.
I did it by hand. We did actually 2 of them. It was for my uncle's kids. And it's not easy. I mean, when you're trying to design rails and you're trying to figure out, fin placements and things like that, like you said, you can get in a big time rabbit hole.
Yeah.
So like, did you just jump in? Did you get people to come on board to help you out? How did that all work out?
Yeah, I'll kick off the beginning part, and Rob has kind of taken it over since.
Okay.
But in the beginning, I sought out, I knew, I did not, answer your question, no, I'd never shaped a surfboard at the time, but I did know just from, I think my military background that, hey, that's no big deal. Just go out and find somebody to actually, who's an expert in that arena. Right. So it's just like, if you're in the military and you want to go on an operation, you get your intelligence perhaps from the intelligence analyst, right? It's like, that's what they do. And so I went out and found surfboard factories, And from there, we started with the right people, really creative, really accomplished shapers and surfboard glassers. And because it wasn't just custom surfboards, which is incredible, but it was customized solutions. So people with amputations, right? And there wasn't really much going on out in the world at that time. So it really started out with a lot of research and development, a lot of getting these shapers out with these veterans, studying them out in the ocean, videoing them, and seeing what we can do, moving those fins around, all sorts of little things. And what we also started to do, and for me, and Rob also, as combat veterans, both of us actually were in a traumatic brain injury clinic in Bethesda.
Oh,
And
wow.
in that clinic, we were exposed to art therapy. And I had no idea what that was, right? And I had no idea that, it could be therapeutic. And I wouldn't have considered myself an artist at the time. But I did know that was powerful. And so we started incorporating art therapy within our surfboard. So the actual veteran can create the board however they want it to be. It could be unit logos. It could be, if they're a football fan, let's say you're up in New York, it could be like, Giants or Jets or whoever your team is, right? Whatever it is, you could put that logo on. We've had family pictures. We've had patches and pieces of brass from the machine gun range. And it was whatever you want. It is your canvas. Let's get some therapy going. So it's not just getting out on the water. It's art therapy, it's community, and it's also surf therapy.
That's great. I mean,
yeah, but I'll keep it at that, because I kind of headed that part up in the beginning, and I would not give Rob his credit without letting him kind of speak on it now.
Yeah, please, Rob. So now you have this kind of platform that you start with, and then you kind of take the ball and go run with it.
Sure. And so what we kind of had to do, and Alex kind of touched on it. At first, we were really small and super niche. And then we were lucky enough to kind of get, looked at or seen by a couple of big groups, one of them being Starbucks. Starbucks has a documentary writing group, or movie making group that we didn't really know about. Maybe Alex did. I certainly didn't know they made documentaries, but they did a documentary on One More Wave, and we kind of exploded. And so by exploded, I mean, we got a lot of interest and a lot more applications. So we kind of needed to streamline the way we were doing things. And you asked at the beginning, what's the process? And so the process is simple. They just hop on our website and they apply. And applying is really just kind of giving us some basic information on them as a vet. And then we just kind of vet that they are, I'd say, indeed a veteran, right? Okay. So we just, go through a couple things, hey, can I see your paperwork? And we just chat them up. And so what I do is I call every single person that applies that kind of meets our minimum requirements. And all that is being a vet and then having some type of disability rating from the VA. Okay. Unless they're in the active duty, and then we might help them out too. That's a smaller group. A little bit more, I should say just smaller. So people apply, I talk to them on the phone, we chat them up, and we decide, hey, what's going to be the best route for this person? Maybe it's a person that's never surfed before, and they'd just like to learn. What we do then is we have a lot of partners that are also veteran based on the East and West Coast that teach vets to surf if they need to learn to surf. Then once they're done with that, we help them with equipment. But if they've already known how to surf, or maybe they haven't surfed for a while, we start them out with different types of boards. It could be an entry-level board, some type of a foam variant, not quite a Costco board, a little bit higher quality than that, but a foam board to get started with. And we do that for a couple of reasons. One of them is people hit themselves with boards all the time. If you've surfed, you're going to smack yourself in the head, you're going to smack your friends, you're going to smack your neighbors. And so it's just a little bit safer and easier to learn on a softer board.
My wife almost knocked herself out one time. Serious. Not
that
good.
happens to the best of us.
Yeah, not good.
Whether it's a black eye or we've had people break their noses, anyways, it's just easier to start on that. And so if that's the case for a rider, what we call as riders, we like to treat everyone that gets approved for a grant to be a rider. And that just means they're kind of sponsored now by One More Wave to keep them getting surf therapy. So once the rider has moved past maybe a foam top board, then we talk about customs. And we've got all kinds of different variants. If someone just wants the board quickly, we'll give them a white surfboard. It's beautifully hand shaped just for them, but it's white because they want it quickly. Or someone just might want some cool color, or based on maybe something that they've gone through, they'd like to experience some art therapy. We'll go full blown. We turn them over to our artist, and she'll work with them and create whatever it is that is going to help them get through what they're going through. And what we found, it's funny. I won't lie. I wasn't like Alex mentioned. I didn't know what art therapy was, and I didn't know that it really worked. And I was having a conversation with a psychologist here in San Diego, and she was almost yelling at me saying, "Hey, Rob, people come to see us for art therapy, and spend tons of money. And it works, but sometimes it takes 10 years to work. So you guys are doing amazing stuff. Even if it costs $30,000 to make the surfboard, keep doing it. So I shut up, and man, gosh, I can't tell you the gains we've made from, you see people's faces and just the expressions on their families' faces when we present these boards to them. It's amazing. So if it doesn't happen immediately, I'm okay if it takes a couple years for, the magic to work with those boards. And so once they get the board, whether it's a foam top or a full-blown custom, our big thing, like Alex mentioned, is to get them into that community and get them surfing, whether it's, Rockaway Beach or, White Plains out in the Wahoo. That's definitely our intent, is to keep surfing. And I always tell everybody, I'd much rather you call me sad and tell me that you're out riding and you snapped your board in half, and you're then for me to see it on the wall in your living room on Instagram, never used. I'd much rather it was broken and we need to make you a new one.
Yeah. Yeah, because you want to know that they're actually going to get the benefits of surfing. You were talking earlier about I believe you said it was a Marine that you took out into the water, Alex. Mm-hmm. It reminded me of a movie I used to watch when I first got out of the military, and I was surfing a lot then. I would almost go every day after work. I was working at a marina out on the east end of Long Island, so the drive back to my apartment, I had to go past a couple really pretty well known for the East Coast surf spots. Sure. And I would stop and jump in the water, and I would always watch my movies at night, some old surf movies, stuff like that. Cool. And one of them was Zen and Zero, I believe is the name of the movie, which I recommend it highly to anybody. But they keep talking about the equilibrium of water and how that transitions into you. And you find that balance by being in the water, and it has that effect on you. You hear the terminology that the water always finds a level. But I think it helps the person find their level. They find that balance while they're in the water. Like you said, that person doesn't feel the pain anymore, whether that's mental or physical, because they're in that water. They're part of that balance at that point. And you find a rhythm that you can just kind of get into. So the fact that you're not just, hey, here's a piece of equipment, go do what you're going to do. No, here's a piece of equipment. Now here's a community that you're probably used to because you're getting out of the military and you're used to that military community. So now we're going to give you a new community to be a part of. Mm-hmm. And we're going to make sure you, if you need to, learn how to use it. And if you just need a partner to go out with, so you're not going out by yourself, here you go. So I have to applaud you for that, because you're thinking of both sides of it, which is important, for sure.
Yeah, no, thanks for bringing that up. And one thing I'd like to touch on when you're talking about the impacts of surfing, and I appreciate your outlook on it, because it is a thing. And for a lot of listeners out there that perhaps you're not a surfer, or you don't live on the coast, and you might think of, there's like a stigma almost of surfing being like Spicoli at Fast Times at Ridgemont High, right? And that's that's certainly a thing. However, what I would encourage people to think about is, surfing is actually like health and wellness, and why it's so impactful for anxiety disorder and clinical or major depressive disorder and PTSD is because it gets you in an actual routine. So with, let's say, PTSD or anxiety, your sympathetic nervous system is stuck on fight. I think everybody knows like the whole fight or flight going all the way back to, caveman. But the thing is, what happens is when you're in so much, like for PTSD, you've been experienced to so much, bad issues, or like where your sympathetic system is amping, that it gets stuck there. Now, if you get out of the military, you approach everything, you haven't done anything for that anxiety, it's just going to keep getting worse. And you'll probably self-medicate, for veterans, as we all know, with alcohol, maybe some prescription medication, and it just starts to spiral downwards. Now, why surfing is important is that you're actually getting out in the water, and let's say you catch a wave. When you're on that wave, there's nothing that's going on in the past, which is where depression hangs out, right? And there's nothing that's going on in the future, which is where anxiety hangs out, right? So it's just all about that moment of being on a wave. And for that 10 seconds, you're actually present in that moment. And now maybe it's only 10 seconds, but let's say you catch 10 waves that day. That's 100 seconds. Now, maybe that's not going to impact much, but now we start getting encouragement from the community, right? And now you're getting into the routine of doing 3, 4 plus, like you said, every day you're out surfing. And now over time, there's empirical data within studies that show that if you change your behavior like that, you will actually help impact, anxiety, PTSD, and a major depressive disorder. So there's actually information behind that. It's not just Spicoli, right?
Right.
It's health and wellness, and and you're also getting exercise. You're out in the water. You're getting sunlight. So you're getting vitamin D, which is shown to be really impactful towards depression as well. So there's more to it, and I just really want to stress that. Now, if you're a surfer, you're like, bro, I already know that,
Right.
Yeah, man. But for us, it's another thing we're doing is trying to educate people that, hey, this is not just surfing. You don't just have, there's more to it. And maybe you can even take that, we want you to surf, but maybe you can take all of that and put it into something that you're into. Maybe it's hunting or snowboarding or mountain biking, right? The same concept applies. Just be in the present and get off that couch if you can. We've all been there, right? Struggling, but just get off that couch and get into something that gets you moving.
Yeah. And, people don't have to be on the coast to surf anymore.
Right.
There are surf parks in Texas. There's river surfing in Idaho. One of my good friends from the Air Force, he started a design company and he did drone footage for a surf competition in an Idaho river. Cool stuff, really
Cool.
Awesome stuff. And, so there is no excuse to not get up off that couch and be a part of this community, because like you said, even if you can't surf, you can snowboard, you can mountain bike, you could woodwork, art therapy, whatever it is, and you can still be a part of, like you said, being in the moment rather than in the past.
Yeah. And with that, for any of your listeners or any people that know people that are struggling with that, I just want them all to know that we are you. Right. For me, I did 15 combat deployments. Right. And I had, PTSD, clinical, major depressive disorder, sleep issues, anxiety, all of this, the slew of things. So I know what it feels like. I don't want to speak for Rob, but for me, I know what that's like. So, some people will be like, yeah, just get off that. I know how hard that can be. Right. It's like there's cement blocks on your feet. However, it really can happen. Just make it to that next step. Make it to where you grab your car keys, right? That's a goal. Don't think about anything else. Okay, now walk to your car. Just make those small wins. And before you know it, you'll find yourself in the ocean. And as I mentioned, if it's not the ocean, maybe it's something else that's healthy, then, you're on the path to helping yourself.
Yeah. Now, Alex talked about that aha moment for him with the Marine. Rob, did you have kind of a similar moment that maybe impacted you and kind of got you, like he's talking about, getting up off that couch and now getting involved in something like this? Did you have that kind of moment?
Not to get me started, but with some of our riders for sure.
Okay.
One of my favorite ones, and I shared it last time, and it's not super PC, but I'll tell you anyways.
Please go ahead.
So one of the things that like Alex and I are super proud of is that we started reaching out to some of the VA rehab centers here in San Diego locally. There's something called Veterans Court, which I didn't know about when I was in the service. Maybe you did, Jason. I don't know that Alex did, but let's say you got in trouble a couple times out in town, you got a couple DUIs, you're about to get your third and do some jail time. Pardon me. And so there's opportunities to go get help, whether it's substance abuse or PTS, depression. There's a lot of these little nodes all over the place. And so I reached out to one here in San Diego. We started providing soft top boards to one of these rehab centers here in San Diego. And one of the days, so a lot of the guys can't drive. They're not allowed to drive because they've lost their license for whatever it is, or they just haven't made it far enough in the program that they're really allowed to leave. They're just part of this program. So I drove our vehicle over. We call it the Pork Chop. It's a big giant van that someone donated us. And I parked right in front of the facility. And as I was pulling up, I could see these two guys in the car right in front of me, and they're drinking beer in the car. And so I hop out and there's a cop pulls up, whoop, and I can see him get out and he starts, the guys are kind of struggling. I get out of the car and I'm walking over and he's asking him whose this beer is, who's this beer they were drinking. And I said, no, it's mine. It's my beer. And the cop kind of, tells the other guys to leave. They walk away and he has me sit on the curb and we do the whole thing that many of us have seen on TV where you're getting about to get arrested. And he talks to me for a minute. And then I think he realizes that I'm not drinking at all. I don't have any beer. And so he lets me go. Anyways, about 10 minutes later, the guys come back out and they're kind of blown away, that I had taken the heat for him. And the guy told me, that if he'd gotten caught drinking at this program, he'd been thrown out and probably gone to prison for his third DUI. And so he told me that no one had ever done anything like that before. I'd never even met him. We'd just spoken on the phone, and he was kind of blown away that someone would just do something nice for him, for no reason at all. And he told me that he had never drank again after that. He'd gotten sober the next day, and He'd later gotten a job as a fireman, and he's a fireman up in Northern California now. And it was really impactful to me to know that, just little bits of kindness like that, that really didn't have anything to do with me, could really impact people. And, he told us his other, cohort about it, and we got a bunch more riders out of the deal. And so that really made me think, there's a lot of people that just need a little push, to get them in the right direction and come be in a group. And, Alex talked a lot about, how cool it is to be in a tribe and be part of this thing. And, sometimes people come and they don't even surf, they just drink coffee and do kind of the things that, we remember from the military that we think is fun. Obviously picking up cigarette butts isn't very much fun, but if you get to the things you remember, hanging out with your buddies, you're going on trips with your friends, you're encouraging each other, you're talking a little trash, all that stuff we kind of crave, as people, we get to do in the ocean, whether you're out in the waves or back on the beach. And so all that encouragement really has built for us. It was tiny. When we talked a little bit about our community and surfing, but when we started, there'd be about 3 of us that would show up. We'd say, hey, we're going to be there. And nobody would show up. And we just kept going. And then finally it got bigger and bigger and bigger. And, this past summer, we had over 50 people surfing in the water, not on the beach.
That's awesome.
It's just amazing.
And that's one chapter. That's just one chapter.
That's just San Diego.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so people just come and do it. And it's amazing to just see people be excited to come. And, once they realize that Alex and I aren't pro surfers, we're kooks at best. We're just there to have fun, and we're super inclusive, meaning we don't have, I don't want to rant too long, but we don't,
no, please.
We're not just post 9/11 like many, we've all experienced a lot of nonprofits that are post 9/11 only. And I'm sure that's just for funding, but we don't do that. We're wide open to Vietnam vets all the way to people that were just injured in Syria. Last summer, we made a board for a guy named Mark Thornton, a wave ski, which is something he sits in to ride. And he's a Vietnam time guy. And we, the same year, gave an EOD person a board that was injured in Syria just lately. So we're wide open to everybody. And one thing that we always kind of talk about when I interview people is I don't care where he deployed, how long he deployed, how you left the military. So you can have an other than honorable discharge, and we're happy to serve you, because maybe you need more help than everybody else. Maybe you just had a bad run at the end. So what's incredibly important to us is just including everybody and making everyone feel welcome when they come.
Yeah. May I say something on that, if you don't mind, Jason?
Please.
Yeah, that is for Rob and I and our crew. That is such a prideful thing and for your listeners, that we accept everyone. Come one, come all. All you have to be is a veteran. And a lot of people don't realize is there's a lot of vets that join the military and something happened to them in the military. For example, if you're a woman that experienced military sexual trauma, basically you got raped, right? And then from there you start self-medicating, right? And then you start getting, with alcohol, let's say, you start getting in trouble. And before you know it, now you're kicked out of the military, right? Or another very common thing is, let's say a guy has traumatic brain injury and he starts acting, he's having like some issues, showing up on time, maybe he gets in a lot of fights. He's a problem for the military, and then he gets kicked out, right? Mm-hmm. However, and now the thing is, you get an other than honorable. Now you're not getting VA benefits. You're not getting the GI Bill. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be hard for you to actually get a job. So now you start throwing in that equation, right, of everything that's going on right there. And now you also have psychological issues on top of that. So statistically, for you to actually be accepted in society is very low. So I want it to be really known that we are here for all of you. I don't care if you got an other than honorable discharge, right? We've come with, you're in our tribe. All you have to do is just apply, and, we're going to bring you in. And we have several people like that have been in our program, who are in our program. And we are not going to leave anybody behind. There's a lot of, as Rob mentioned, a lot of nonprofits, and this is not me talking bad on them. I understand why, because of funding and marketing and all that, but that just go after the special operations, right? Mm-hmm. Or they just go after the war fighter, or they just go after, well, when you do that, you're ignoring a lot of people that really need help. And so that's what our goal is. That's our aim, is to actually fill that void.
Yeah. Because, like you said, there's hosts of reasons why you may need help when you get out. And because you didn't get the right piece of paper when you got out, shouldn't exclude you from getting the help that you need. Like you said, you probably have more problems and you need more help. Both of you said it. I can't agree more with that, because, if somebody comes to me and asks me for help, I'm not asking for a qualification that I'm going to give them my help. I'm going to help you. You know,
Right.
I'm not going to make you fill out a questionnaire to make sure that you fit my criteria of who I think should have help. And listen, like we said, no knock against any other nonprofit doing whatever they're doing, because everybody has constraints. And Rob, like you said, might be financial. You might have to put a box around something because you can't afford to help everybody. So, you know, you draw lines. But it's great to hear that you guys are trying to break down a little bit of those barriers and just include everybody. And I think it goes back to that aha moment that you were talking about, Rob. You didn't know those guys that were drinking on that curb or in that car. You know, who knows what their status was, honorable, dishonorable, you know, arrested a bunch of times, who knows, but you helped them out, and look at the benefit that they had. I mean, that's amazing. That's great.
It kind of goes back to, in my opinion, within the military, right? When you have your quick reactionary force or your QRF, right? So what that means for maybe listeners who aren't from the military, if you get in trouble, let's say you're in a combat operation and your unit is pinned down and it needs help, right? You have a lot of casualties and you just need help. You know, you call for the QRF to come and help you out. And when that happens, you know, usually you have one in your planning that's already assigned to you, whatever unit that is. But then there's also, when it gets bad, everyone wants to go to help that unit, right? Because we are all one. All of the things of inter-service rivalry, you know, inter-unit rivalry, all of that goes out the window because we're going to come and we're going to help you. Because the why is because we know that you would do that for us. And that's where it is for us as veterans. We want to help all of you. And there's no judgment of why you got kicked out of the military. There's no judgment of what you did. You know, you could be the Delta Force Air Hawk commander, Air Wolf commander, right? With the most medals or whatever. Or you could just have been let's say, you know, on a ship working some IT stuff, right? So maybe you know, it's just like, which is great, right? But we don't look at that. As Rob said, you can have a 0 rating from the VA and we will accept you. But the big thing is that we say on our applications is just be really honest and let us know, because Rob is having to go through a ton of these apps and validate and vet a lot of these veterans to make sure we're not taking advantage of, which, you know, sadly enough does happen from time to time, not from veterans, but from just, you know, shady people.
Of course. And you're also including people that maybe don't have a disability or weren't wounded, because you're offering volunteer opportunity as well. Can we talk a little bit about that? Because, like, say for myself, I don't have a VA rating, but I want to get involved. I maybe want to help somebody else. So how do I get involved to help the people that might need it?
Rob, you want to take that one?
Yeah, for sure. So depending on where you live, there's all kinds of things we do. Like one of the things that we do a lot is to do assessments. And assessment just means, hey, someone can surf, but me specifically made a lot of mistakes early on, just making boards for people based on a phone call. And it's kind of tough to do that. So we've got folks that volunteer all the time. If you're already a waterman, waterwoman, surfer, boogie boarder, whatever it is, you can get in the ocean and kind of help us figure out what would be best for this person. So we have assessment folks all over the US that will hop on the water with our folks and go, oh, this person should be on a longboard or a shortboard, or based on this injury, we need to think about this. So that's one thing. But aside from water things, we need all kinds of volunteers, whether it's helping out on the beach. If you're a web designer, we could definitely use help. All those kind of things that you think, man, my skills, I can't ride barrels at pipeline. We don't need that. We can't do that either. We need help with volunteering, with fundraising, with not breaking Zoom, all those kind of things. So we'd love to have you for sure. And it could be just you just come and hang out. Sometimes when we're working with people that have an injury where they can't actually walk, we need multiple people. You know, if we're bringing a person in that doesn't have the use of their legs, we might need 2 or 3 people in the water to get them moved around. So all those kind of things are available on our website. You just hop on and say you want to volunteer, and then you can choose the area where you live. So obviously you don't want to choose to volunteer for Los Angeles if you live in Long Island, unless you visit a lot. But as we've grown, we've definitely been able to use volunteers. It could be artwork, could be photography. Our social media, we have volunteers that help us do all that stuff. So really all of One More Wave is volunteers. There's just a couple of us that are full-time or mostly full-time, but it's all volunteers that kind of make the magic happen.
It's great because, again, that just grows that community that you've talked about, you know, through this whole process. Is, you know, the community is what One More Wave is. And whether you're the volunteer or whether you're the veteran that needs the board or the help, you know, you're a part of it. That's great. And I think, and stop me if you have a different experience, but I know here on Long Island, there are locals that surf certain areas. I know in California it's similar. That is not community and very inviting sometimes. So for, say, a surfer who already has a disability, something like that, it could be very daunting to show up in a lineup, not at their beach, and have problems with people that are very protective of their area. They don't want you in there. They don't want these people. Now you have a community that hey, we're all going to go together, and we're going to look after each other, and we're going to make sure everybody's having a good time and getting what they need out of the water. It's unfortunate that there are situations like that.
No, for sure. And our stance is always just try to kill them with kindness, right? Come surf with us. You know what I mean? Come hang out. It's going to be fun. On this day, you might get less waves because there's a bunch of unruly vets that are, marginal surfers, but come have fun. We're just out there to have fun. If it's that bad, just wait an hour till we're gone. It'll be fine. So no, we rarely have those issues. I feel like when I was a kid, surf breaks were much more like that. I feel like it's much more inclusive, except for, of course there's certain spots like anywhere that can be like that, but we really haven't experienced that too much. Thankfully.
No, that's great.
We haven't too much. And you're right though. There is that stigma that happens all over the world, really, for that matter. But the way we kind of tell people, it's like, the movie Karate Kid, where it's like, all of those guys are basically being, like Cobra Kai, and we're just going to be the Miyagis. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to be in there humble. You know what I mean? We're not going to certainly back down or get, but it's just like, no, man, let's share this wave. Be Miyagi, not Cobra Kai.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, one good thing about Long Island waves is that the best waves are in the coldest weather. Yes. And so you have to be a person that really wants to get into some cold water if you want the good waves. So generally that weeds out anybody with a bad attitude, because nobody's fighting in 38-degree water when it's 20 degrees outside and you got thermoses full of hot water to dump on yourself afterwards.
Yeah, you guys are core. That's core.
You get I think it's a 5-6 wetsuit and hoods, gloves, boots. Not for the faint of heart.
No.
You got to earn that wave. You got to earn that wave. Outside of maybe like the nor'easters and stuff like that that'll come through and hurricanes that obviously come through in the fall, where the water's still kind of warm from the summertime. The rest of the good waves are really wintertime waves here. And California can be like that sometimes as well, right? Wintertime is a little bit bigger, a little bit better shape.
Absolutely. We're experiencing that right now. We're probably having the best waves in California in 3 or 4 years.
Wow.
It's been pretty good. But what's been great for us, you talked about sometimes it's weird in other areas. We've got so many great partnerships with other veteran surfing organizations, whether it's Warrior Surf at Folly Beach, so when people are looking for a group, we have other friends we can push them to. So, if there's not a big one more wave contingent, they can hop in with Operation Surf here on the West Coast, or Warrior Surf on the East Coast, or Access Surf in Hawaii. So that's been really powerful for us because we're also small. And I think when you're in the nonprofit world, everyone thinks that you're going to steal money from other people somehow if you're in the same space, but that's never been the case for us at all. It's all just us growing together. It hasn't ever been like, oh, we lost money to this, the Red Cross stole our money. That's not a thing. That hasn't ever happened. We're always talking to other groups, and if we can't provide something, we're passing them on to somebody else, and then they bring them back our way. So it's an amazing kind of ohana, as we all call it in the surfing world.
And that's important because, we are, at the end of the day, we serve the veteran. So it's not about what's best for Rob or I, it's about what's best for that veteran. So maybe that is, we get them the board. Hopefully they're in our community, but maybe they live right next to Operation Surf up in, San Luis Obispo or wherever they're at. And so it's like so it's all about them. So if we can build that relationship with that other organization, it's only going to make that experience better for that veteran, and hopefully in the water more, and hopefully to a better life.
You guys are making me want to get in the water.
Let's do it.
Yeah, no, I had a board shaped not too long ago for myself. I had the board that I shaped with my uncle for his kids. We have an extra one out of that. Cool. And I had one made because there's a spot here that I like where you have to walk pretty far. So I didn't want to have to take a longboard with me. And
Sure.
I am in no way a good surfer. I would agree with you guys that my skills are not the greatest. But I wanted something that was easy to kind of catch smaller waves, summertime, early fall waves here, but be able to walk with. So like, it's great to see how you can tailor that board to what you really need. So for people that don't understand surfing, that's really important. So your guys' boards obviously tailored to each person's individual injury, disability, whatever they need. Now, do you have just regular, shapers doing this for you, or are these guys specialty at doing this type of work?
I would just say that they're very experienced in their jobs.
Okay.
Yeah, and they've got great experience because we've used the same crew for probably 5 years. I think we tried to branch out a couple times to other folks, and it just didn't take.
Mm-hmm.
But the folks we've been using are probably the experts on adaptive surfboards, honestly, because I don't know anyone else that's knocking them out like we are. But the guys that we have they've just been doing it forever. And as you know, the more you tell a shaper, or more information you can give to the shop, the better the board's going to be for you. And what happens sometimes, especially with people with a severe physical injury where they might need something special, sometimes it takes us 3, 4, 5 boards to get it right. And we're fine with that. We just keep cranking them out. We've got a guy, Dan Kanassen. He's a Olympic athlete, para-athlete, and I think we're on board 5, and I think we might be getting close to having this board correct now. But he's a double above the knee amputee, and he's nonstop making trips to Indo and everywhere else, and he paddles into scary places. So it's so much fun to see those guys just
he's my hero,
getting after it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, and to just kind of jump on that, our shapers are, Dan Van Zanten, Micah Shanahan, and Glasser Alan Beals. And why? I mean, first off, they're just world-class surfboard shapers. And what Rob was saying was getting at is, they probably have more reps making and shaping boards for disabled people than anywhere else in the world. And if anywhere else in the world is doing that, we'd love to know, because we'd love to share ideas with you. Mm-hmm. But the reality is that, obviously there's incredible shapers all over the world, and they may get a one-off from time to time where someone comes in, let's say they lost a leg in a motorcycle wreck. That might happen a couple times in their career, but these guys are doing this every day, right? And we're learning every day, and we're taking notes, and we're studying, and that's why we're breaking trail on adaptive surfboard design. And that's why we had, one of our surfers, Jose, just compete in a, big wave championship up in Northern California, surfing 10, 15 foot waves on a gun that we made for him. And we're already back to the drawing board of just, getting his input and his team's input to make it even better, so he can go and charge bigger waves. So that's where we're at with all of that, where it's, even though, our shapers are world-class, but at the same time, they have more reps, I would argue, than anyone else in the world when it comes to adaptive surfboards. And we're proud of that, and we're proud of them.
Now, when you say adaptive surfboard, so for people out there that maybe have never seen some of this stuff, what are some examples of modifications that would have been done, or features on an adaptive surfboard rather than just your standard surfboard, fins, foam, rail? That's it. What would you see kind of on some of these adaptive boards?
Yeah. So what, not to keep it kind of not too rabbit hole-ish,
Mm-hmm.
We have, for the fins, for example, if people don't know, the fins, of the surfboard, they help turn it. But what we do is we can bring, if somebody has, let's say they surf prone, or they surf from their knees because they're missing a leg or two, we'll actually bring those fins up to them, because what a surfer will do, they'll shift their weight up and down on the board. They'll walk up and walk down, whether it's a longboard or even little micro movements if it's a short board. But basically that allows the board to plane out and to go faster, slow down. But when we bring the fins closer to the vet, because they can't move like that, so now they're still shifting, but we're actually bringing those fins in to help them get performance within that board. Also, as you mentioned, we have modifications on some rails. We have handles that we've put into boards, especially if a veteran, let's say, is missing an arm. That way they can hold on to the board as they turtle or roll over as waves coming. Sometimes we mess with the nose of the board, bring it up and down, because we want to build that in so that we're giving them the best chance to catch more waves, because they just can't, in some cases, move like they used to be able to. However, that's not a big deal. We still want them. Perhaps their best surfing will be as an adaptive surfer. So, but I don't want to take too much. Rob deals with it more. Anything else I might have missed, Rob?
No, sure. Whether it's handles or handles that move, that's our newest thing, being able to shift handles back and forth. or what we didn't realize, I didn't, is that prosthetics will punch right through the deck of a surfboard with normal glass. And so
I wouldn't even thought of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
because you think about it, your foot you're born with spreads the weight out, but when you get something smaller, even if it's a foot, it's still a lot more pressure. So we've learned that we had to add extra glass, or for one of our guys who we just talked about, Dan, he's a double above the knee. So he has these caps on the end. And when he pops up, he actually is punching right through the deck. So we had to put some Kevlar in there. We've done all kinds of different pieces of metal not metal, but just some different thread work, almost like body armor, to kind of make it stronger so it spread the weight out a little bit better. Moving fins around. It's fun. That's the funnest part of doing this, is really dialing in and dorking out on making these boards for these guys. And it doesn't work, it's fine. We just move on to the next one. But yeah, whether it's handles or fin placement or extra glass, or we had a guy just lately who has no Achilles on one of his, I think it's his back foot, because of an injury. And so we built out a little shallow padded section so we can stand up, because it was so painful to just stand on a regular fiberglass board. So everyone's so different that it's really cool to see what we come up with and change it and adapt it, and just get people more waves and get them stoked.
Yeah, another thing we do too is wetsuits, and each veteran gets a wetsuit, they get a board bag, they get all of the equipment to go with it, because that can add up to be really expensive.
Yes, sir, it
can. But with that though, especially for the amputees, we take their wetsuit and we go to a wetsuit tailor, because what was happening with a lot of the amputees is they would, let's say they're missing a leg below the knee, they would just kind of tie an overhand knot in it, and maybe cut it off with some scissors, the excess with some scissors. And looking at that, it's like hell no, man. Like, that looks, we want, there's something about looking and feeling good. I don't mean like trying to look cool. I just mean like that's not one more wave. That's not what we're about. You deserve better. And so that's why they get in there. And we've even done some wetsuit designs where there's drain holes. That way water doesn't come in, but it comes out, it leaks out. So there's a lot of things. We've done pouches on wetsuits for catheters, so that surfers can use the restroom out in the ocean with their catheter. It's like a custom pouch that they have. That way, some of them were struggling with was they'd have to come in from a surf to actually, go to the bath, to take a leak. And then from there, when they crawl out of their wetsuit, if it's a cold day, like let's say up in Long Island, there's no motherfucking way that they're going to get back in the water. I mean, maybe at least I wouldn't, so but it's
one
like
time.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, okay, well, maybe. So we even had it in one guy in particular, and there was a zipper above the site that he needed to in place his catheter, and we had a little zipper so he could actually use the restroom out in the lineup and catch more waves. So it's we really pride ourselves on creative thinking and thinking outside of the box. And that is like one of our ethos at One More Wave, is like, what can we do? Because we know we're breaking trail on stuff, but at the same time, we want to get the best gear for our veterans to catch as many waves as possible.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's cool that you're doing the wetsuit stuff, because I mean, the challenges that you just talked about, I wouldn't even have thought of that stuff, but there's something to that. It should look right. You shouldn't have to tie a knot in the bottom of your wetsuit. Yep. Let's get you the equipment that you need to do it properly and enjoy yourself, and not, have to, rig up something just to go out into the water. Because that's going to stop you from going in the water. And, any one of those hurdles is a reason to get back on your couch. Love Zoom, right? Is he surfing yet? Is that your little guy?
Yeah, he does.
Awesome, man. Awesome. I can't wait to get my daughter out there. I already have, I got a boogie board waiting for her. So
cool.
We're going to get her out as soon as I can.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Yeah. And she has no fear whatsoever. She's already going to be better than me at most of the things that we do.
That's the goal, right?
Yeah. Exactly right. Exactly right. Rob, I know you have to take off here in a minute. Just before you do, any last words that you would like to say, especially from the operations standpoint, anything that you'd like to get out? I want to give you that opportunity, because I know you do have another meeting.
Yes, absolutely. I think that I have to convince a lot of our fellow vets is that they're worth it, that they deserve it. Everyone goes, well, I just saw you guys have Jose. He's a AAA amputee. I'm fine. I don't have that problem. And it's not the case. There's no scoreboard. Like we talked about in the beginning. I don't care if you did 10 runs through Mogadishu in Somalia, or you were in Kirkland, Washington. It doesn't matter. And the same thing to go with your injury. all we care about is getting you in the ocean, and we're happy to have you in the family. So you are worth it, and you do deserve it. There's no scoreboard. So come on in. We're happy to have you, and we'd love to go surf with you.
Awesome, man. Well, Rob, I'm going to hang out and talk to Alex for a little bit longer, but I don't want to keep you. I want to make sure you get to what you got to do. Thank you so much for coming on the show with us. And thank you for what you're doing. I love it. And I'm really hoping that I'll be able to do an event out here, with a couple of my buddies that surf around this place. So, I'm looking forward to the new year and maybe we getting together.
Heck yeah. Thanks, man.
Hey,
love you guys.
Take it easy.
Hey, Rob.
So Alex, I'm impressed with the idea and how you came up with all of this, and I'm sure there were a lot of hurdles along the way. Can you talk a little bit about some of the early on kind of issues? You talked a little bit about the daunting task of starting, a nonprofit. Were there any specific issues that you ran into when you first started that kind of, I hate to say it, but almost sunk the idea?
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's actually a great question, Jason. And there was, and probably too many to count, but right off the top of my head, we started without any money, zero. And it all started from selling T-shirts out of the back of my pickup truck. And it probably took us 6 months to raise enough money for our first surfboard. And
wow.
Yeah, because, there's a lot of, for people who don't know, for nonprofit stuff, a lot of filing, a lot of administrative fees to get it going. And then from there, we had to raise the money for our first board, because what are we doing if we're not making boards, right? We're just a theory. And so just getting that off the ground, and it was probably the biggest challenge. And then from there, spreading the word, just getting our name out there, trying to tell people what we're doing. And it was a little slow at first, even though that doesn't mean that we weren't making massive gains for us. But as far as the amount of boards we were doing in the beginning, obviously compared to now, is it's way different.
Yeah.
So that was probably the biggest thing in the beginning, just having zero money. We didn't have some big donor that came in and was like, here's a crazy amount of money.
Yeah. Some like angel who's like, all right, here, I'm doing this. I want to write off. So I'm going to kind of fund you guys.
Right. Yeah. And I'm actually I'm so proud of the organization because of that, because to this day, our e-commerce site, our swag, our T-shirts, hats, all of that actually is a big contributor to our funding. And it all starts from that grassroots effort from the beginning that, like I've got a T-shirt on right now, which you can buy on our website. But the thing is, it's from that hustle, that elbow grease. We've never taken a federal grant, even though each one of our veterans, it takes $2,500 for their grant, and we've served over 500. So if you just do that math, and we've never taken that grant, I'm not saying we're too good for it. It's just that, in my opinion, if you can't run and do your mission as a nonprofit without a grant, then maybe you've grown too fast. And so for us, it's always been self-sufficient. It's been private donations, corporate donations, hustle, lots of talks, and just getting our mission out there, and just being honest, and just making sure that people know that we care about our veterans. So I know I kind of went off of that original question.
Well, and I'm glad you brought up the shop, because I did have that written down here. I really like some of the stuff. I already have my eye on, it's a camo hat with your guys' logo right on the front. The gear is very cool.
Thank you.
And it's good to know that's a big support for you guys. So, for the listeners out there, if you don't want to just donate, get over to the shop, because the gear is awesome looking. There's a whole bunch of shirts, hats, stickers, patches. You got all sorts of stuff there. So, if that's the way you would like to support the organization, and, you get a little something out of it that you can wear around.
Yeah. Well, and just so people know, I'd be surprised if you can find a better fitting shirt. But also, just so you all know, the profits of that shirt go 100% back into our mission, right? So you are contributing to providing a board for that guy Jose we were talking about, charging big waves on a gun. That you buying that shirt helps him do that. You buying that shirt helps, maybe a foam top board on a veteran who, like we mentioned before, just couldn't get off their couch, and they barely did. Thankfully, they're at the beach, and it's like getting a wetsuit to them or whatever it might be. You're helping. And if you do buy that shirt, you're also a walking billboard for us, right? So it's, people get our they see it, they see the logo, and before you know it, we're going to continue to grow, and you're impacting us through that. So
Yeah, I mean, I say it all the time. Everybody is a walking billboard nowadays.
Yeah.
From the clothes you wear to the apps you use on your phone to the sticker on your car. Why not be a billboard for something you believe in?
Right.
And I try to support a lot of veteran owned and operated companies, especially with clothing and stuff like that. And not to mention the gear coming out of these companies, it's awesome. It's awesome stuff. So like I said, head on over to that shop and take a look at what you guys have over there, because you're not only supporting financially, but you're part of the community as well, because you're help spreading the word.
Right. Yeah. And I'd like to just touch on a couple quick other challenges we've had.
Please.
One being, we get approached a lot by other nonprofits, because we're, as far as I know, the only nonprofit making customized surfing solutions. So there's a lot of nonprofits that use surf therapy, whether it's through autism or inner city kids or, battered, and abused women, that have come to us wanting to be like, hey, could you guys do it for us? Or Gold Star kids. There's a lot of these, and we definitely want to help, but we can't right now, because we need to focus on our mission and, of serving the veterans. And hopefully one day we can, but we get hit up a lot on that. And I just want to make sure that that's known to people. It's not that we don't want to, it's just that right now we just can't boil the ocean. And so maybe one day we can get to that. So that was one. And then another one is COVID. Obviously that's been a big struggle for everyone this year, but especially in the nonprofit world, where it's called the giving season, if people don't know, for nonprofits, where around September, October till the end of the year is when historically companies and people will donate money because of tax purposes, right?
Of course.
Because they, maybe up until then they didn't know that, if, they have a little excess money or whatever they want to give, and that's when they do it. Well, COVID certainly took a big hit on all nonprofits, and we saw that too from us. But so that was a big challenge. And thankfully, though, to our supporters, we never lost momentum. We continued to build boards. And that all came back to that, that e-commerce shop that we have. That if it wasn't that we had that shop just turning over some positive cash flow going, then we would have had to do things like potentially, scale back, turn away applications, or maybe not turn them away, but push them to like, hey, so maybe next year you're approved, but we just don't have the money. But
Right.
Thanks to all of our supporters out there and potential future supporters, if it is a big deal buying that shirt, buying that hat, buying that sticker, because if it wasn't for that we self-funded getting through COVID, which is I'm so proud of when I think about it. Proud of not just the organization, but our supporters, that thanks to them, you all were the reason why we continued our momentum, and we just didn't stop. So those are our biggest challenges, COVID, telling people the hard facts that like right now we can't help other demographics, and then funding in the beginning.
Yeah. COVID, obviously it's part of everybody's life. It's made this past year just the craziest that I think anybody's probably been in. And that's saying something for the veteran community, because there's been some crazy years.
Yes.
It has to have put a damper on your guys' events, because I'm sure that events and getting that word out through social media as people share the events and go, that helps you guys as well, because again, that spreads the word. It helps with donations. It helps with the shop. It helps with everything. 2021, are you looking at events really starting to kick up? I know I said it at the top of the show, California, New York, a lot of your coastal major areas are pretty locked down. So, it definitely, you may or may not be allowed to, but, any thoughts on what 2021 might offer you in that arena?
Yeah, well, first off, with you're right. Our surfs, because we do a monthly surf every third Saturday with all of our chapters all over the country, and a lot of states, especially California, we're in lockdown. But at the same time, it just so happens that the guys running it were, certainly fought a lot of counterinsurgency. So we found a lot of ways. I wouldn't say around that, and I don't mean that as like, down with the. I don't mean that. I just, instead of having a full blown, like surf together, it was reaching out to certain small groups. Hey, just like keep it low key and get out there and support each other. And the why behind that. And is that risky? Maybe. Have we gotten fined yet? No, not yet. And it's not that. It's that we feel that it's important, because if you talk to some of these guys, as I'm sure a lot of them, like a lot of veterans, they need this it is more dangerous for them not to get out and do something than it is for them perhaps to be out in society to get COVID. So it's like that weird line. So we've run some like, some guerrilla ops is what we were calling it, just like joking around. And it's, once again, I really want to emphasize, it's not like we're anti anything. It's just, hey, how can we, where's a gray zone where we can get our mission accomplished? Okay. So back to 2021, we have, yes, we are looking, there is some states in North Carolina is allowing us to do it. Oahu is, it's still kind of, like they're looking at, Hawaii to start kicking it off soon. California, we're not able to right now, really. But we are looking to kick that back up. But we do have some pilot programs that I'm excited to actually announce here for the first time on your podcast that we're looking to do. One of the pilot programs is surfboard shaping classes, where we're going to have veterans come in and shape and get instruction from our surfboard factory team on how to shape their own board and surf their own board. Right now, we're just in that beginning phase, right, where it's a pilot program that's starting out because we really need to dial in, making sure it's financially worth it, out of respect to our donors. But that's something we're extremely excited about. Imagine that you can shape your own board and then from there go out and surf your own board as a therapeutic means. So that's one thing. Another pilot program we're going to have is our own clinic, surfing clinic that we're going to start in San Diego. It's just going to start out with a one-day clinic. That's one thing that we haven't really done. We've done group surfs. Of course, we make the boards. We encourage community, but an area we haven't encroached on too much because there's so many other nonprofits doing it is an actual clinic. So, you show up, if you don't know how to surf, or maybe you do, and you get an instructor and you get out and you actually get instruction. So we're looking to kind of branch out into that, and then also expanding our chapters. Right now, our primary chapters are in San Diego, Central Coast, California, Santa Cruz, Oahu, and Surf City, North Carolina. But we've also earmarked, and we're mentoring chapters in Ventura, which is, if people don't know, kind of like LA County. Also
Port Hueneme.
Yeah, Port Hueneme. And
stationed there.
No way, it's beautiful there.
Yeah.
And we have a wake surfing chapter we're mentoring in Texas, actually. And we have hopefully maybe up in Long Island, but we don't have any people there yet. But we're looking to continue to expand that. But we want to do it smartly. We want to mentor our chapter team leaders. We want to make sure that, our brand stays tight and that we're actually providing the best solutions for our veterans.
Yeah.
But those are the big things we're looking to do.
That's awesome. I mean, I'll tell you what, if somebody told me that I could go and shape my own board and actually get instruction on it, because I learned by reading books, and I mean, I don't even think YouTube was really that big yet. So, it was all print a PDF off, the internet and then try it. I remember the first time I was glassing and, the rails were just chunky because I didn't get to it quick enough. And it was just, the glass was all chunked up. I'll sand it. It'll be fine.
Yeah. And that's a thing. That's absolutely a thing. And that's actually more common than not. And if people don't know or don't know much about surfboard manufacturing, there's actually about 27 steps that you have to get right. And in any one of those, and maybe some of them you can get away with messing up here and there, but a couple of those steps are so crucial that you could just mess everything up.
And blanks are not cheap.
No, they're not cheap at all. And that's where I'd like to give even another shout out to our surfboard manufacturing team because of those 27 steps, because of these graphics that we are putting on our boards. Nobody else in the world is doing this. We've broken trail on the artwork that goes on. And if somebody is doing it, I'm glad they are, because I'd love to share how we are doing it together, because the glassers to basically put these graphics into the boards is, one of those 27 steps. And if you mess that up, you've messed everything up. And those graphics aren't cheap. The blanks aren't cheap. Everything. So you could make a $1,000 mistake in about 5 minutes. So thankfully we have the skills and these guys are black belts in what they do. And so they're able to turn it out and rarely make a mistake.
Yeah. It is not an easy process, and it's forever changing. I was looking at Instagram the other day and the technologies with, instead of using actual solid blanks, they're going to like honeycomb style blanks. You see that, very cool stuff there. Like you said, you're adding Kevlar in certain spots and putting different deck patches on so that you're not punching through the top of the deck. I mean, everybody who surfs knows you could put a heel dent in a deck. So imagine if, like you said, and Rob was talking about, imagine now if it's a prosthetic, it's going right through. So,
Yes.
you have to be very inventive when you
Right.
when you undertake these projects.
Yeah. And we get hit up too with technology where people are like, how come everything is hand shaped and it's
Mhm.
not, CNC machined? And my response to them is because we want soul in our boards,
Yeah.
right? We don't want to shortchange that veteran with a computer. We want them to have a guy like Dan Van Zandt, who has 45 years of shaping and one of the most respected shapers in the world, to hand shape your board out of conversations you've had with him. So it goes deep, right?
Yeah.
It goes deep. We want the veterans to know that we are not turning over, like we're not cutting corners. We're going to make that board world class. And back to that design, why, for some of the listeners that don't know why it's important to have a customized board, and you probably know this, Jason, but
Mhm.
when a surfboard is just like any other kind of like hobby. Let's say you're a hot rod guy and you love hot rods and everything is custom, this and that. And you love it when people come over and you go to car shows or friends come over and you just nerd out talking about how cool your hot rod is. Well, it's the same thing with surfboards. And that's what we want for our veteran, where they have buy-in on that design. So if they're walking down the beach and somebody comes up to them and says, "Hey man, that's a really beautiful board." And it's like, "Yeah, let me tell you about it." And
Yeah.
that's where it goes deep. Right. That's where it comes into the heart of things. Right. And that's why the hand shaping, that's why the art, that's why showing them that we care about them is so important, where it's not just a computer generating out a CNC blank. Right. It's not just half-assing X, Y, and Z. Just get them in there and then just tally up another number that we've helped another veteran so we can go to a charity event and say we've helped X amount of people, because we'd rather help 10 people properly than 1,000 people half-assed.
Yeah. And for people that don't know and just think, well, a surfboard's a surfboard, there are so many different types of surfboards, between
Yeah.
longboards, shortboards, fish, quads, single fins, whatever, guns, like you were talking about, for the bigger waves. So you build a bond with your board. Your
Yeah.
board is part of you. It's an extension of you while you're in the water, and you can feel the movement of it underneath you. And again, that goes back to the therapeutic part of all of this.
Right.
And I could see how the shaping could be part of that therapy, because I know you throw that music on in the background, you start sanding that blank, and you get your rhythm in, and it's each stroke, you're there, you're in it, and anything else that might be in your mind kind of just goes away because you're doing this task, this simple.
Primal.
Very primal, very primal. And I could definitely see, and I hope that you get buy-in from the community, that people want to do that, because I could really see how that would be helpful, alongside the kind of art therapy side of things.
Yeah, no, it's funny. We have gotten, and we've only leaked the information about this pilot program really lightly. And even with those small leaks, we're getting a lot of people hitting us up like, when does that start? I want to be the first, or what do I need to do? And as I mentioned, this is the first time we're actually announcing it on an open forum, but
Awesome.
it's exciting. I hope, we hope that it, like I said, we have a pilot program we're crunching numbers, making sure everything's good and it's appropriate. That's obviously, we owe that to our donors, and the IRS, but most importantly, that's just a joke. But like our donors, right, that have supported us through thick and thin, so that we're being responsible with their funding.
Yeah, definitely. Well, listen, I've kept you for over an hour, both you and Rob, and the information's been awesome. And I've just enjoyed chatting with you. I could geek out on this stuff all day long. And I say this about a lot of topics, but, surfing is a passion from early on in my life. And I've kind of fallen out of it as I've gotten older because of just life in general and kid and all that kind of stuff. But talking about it again, and even knowing that you guys were going to come on, I was looking at my bookshelf of a couple books that I used to read, and I would bring them on the beach with me. And before you get in the line, I'd be sitting, you just read. And all of that is part of all of this. So from myself, thank you, because I think you might have lit a little bit of a fire under my ass to get back in that water on a more regular basis, and start teaching my daughter how to do it as well.
Thanks for saying that. Jason, that thanks for saying that too. That just shows the power of community, right? That shows the power of a couple people just talking about a passion, right? That just shows that. So I love how you shared that, because for the listeners, that just shows why we are trying to build this community, is because maybe that's what it takes. Maybe you're a surfer forever and then you fell out of it for whatever reason. And then all it takes is watching a movie, talking to a friend, reading a book. And then here you are talking about wanting to get your daughter out there. It's actually really incredible.
Yeah, no, it's definitely awesome. But so thank you. Where can people find you? Instagram, Facebook, websites, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So our website is onemorewave.com. From there, you can sign up to be a volunteer. You can donate. You can also go to our e-commerce site from there and buy some awesome swag, awesome shirts, hats, that type of thing. On Instagram, we are the #1M Wave, and also on Facebook, same 1M Wave, and YouTube 1M Wave. And so you'll see it. We've got a bunch of videos on a bunch of our different surfers, and as Rob mentioned earlier, our Starbucks documentary, among some other video and media content. And you can also, let me back up, on our website, there's other ways to donate. Like I mentioned, time, money, but you can donate your car. We've partnered with a charity a company that helps charities. So if you have an old beater and you're not sure what to do with it, go on that link and they'll take care of it. And that money raised, one, you'll get a tax write-off. Two, that money raised will actually help a veteran get out in the water to surf.
That's awesome. That's too many people have beaters in their driveway. Put them to good use.
You're like, what am I doing paying insurance for this thing?
Yeah.
I got a solution.
Yeah. That old VW is never going to run. Stop it. Well, Alex, thank you. I really appreciate you coming on the show with me today. I've had a lot of fun, and thank you, Rob. I know he had to jump off, but thank you to him for just great information and a great chat. So I really appreciate it. I hope everybody got a lot out of this, and I look forward to seeing great things from you guys.
Thank you, Jason. And I really mean it. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share our story. And thank you to the listeners for listening. And I really mean it for any of those listeners out there. If you're a veteran that's struggling, please reach out to us, onemorewave.com. If you are a friend or family member of a veteran struggling, just reach out to us also. Like, we've had it where wives have reached out to us in lieu of their husband, who just doesn't feel like reaching out to anyone. So, and also, a big point that we were talking about before, for those veterans out there that feel like, maybe you're not a combat veteran or you're not included, you are included with us no matter what. You are part of us. So we are you. Sign up. Let's do this. Let's get out in the water. And because you deserve a healthy, happy life.
Awesome. Couldn't have said it any better. So, hey, for One More Wave, thank you so much. And, again, I look forward to getting in the water with you guys up here in New York one time.
I'd love that.
Awesome, man. Thank you again. You have a great day.
Thanks. You too, Jason.